So here on the channel, I haven't ever before talked about a very important fact in my life. Now, it's not some sort of insane fact, it's almost just a fun fact, but it is that my grandfather was a huge fan of the Beatles. And when I say huge fan, I mean huge fan. Like, I'm a fan of Arctic Monkeys, but he was a fan of them for his entire life. He even wrote 3 books that I'll show on screen currently about the Beatles. He gathered quotes, he gathered toys, he gathered all of these small things that became these books. Now, for as long as I can think back on, I've always heard the Beatles. Their old songs, their new songs, if you count them as new, they're the 60s, so not totally current, but still, I've heard almost all of them because of him, and my mom took after him, kind of played those songs for me and my older brother, and we both love the band. Not as hard as my grandfather did, but still, I enjoy the band a lot. And recently, I decided, why not just play Abbey Road again? Because I've heard it in the past, but when I did, I wasn't paying attention. I was probably like 6 or something. And I wanted to go into it with a brand new perspective. And I did. I've heard that about 5 times in the past, like 3 days. And I also heard some of their other stuff. And it is just so good. I totally forgot how good the band is and all of their songs are. But I'm going on and on and on. What I'm really trying to talk about today is I want to do some sort of road to 100 subscribers special. It isn't about Arctic Monkeys, but it's still about a band, so I hope it's okay. So, as you may have seen in the title, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hear the White Album by the band. Now, I've probably heard songs off of it like many times because they're a huge band and almost every song that they have is big. But as I've been starting to dive into the band again, I've started to see stuff talking about how bad the process of doing the album was. Now, I'm not an expert on it. I'm sure my grandfather could have told you, but I've just seen some people talk about it, and I think it's very intriguing because they talk about how hard it was to produce it, but also how good it is. And I'm about to, straight after this, go hear the entire album and tell you what I think. So I'll be back in some time, but it'll be a couple seconds. Okay, so after 4 days, I have finally heard every single song. It could have probably taken less time, but I just didn't do it as such. But I've heard every song off of the White Album, and it is great. I love it so much. It just sounds so different for the band. It has a psychedelic sound to it at parts, but also a calming part to it, and also a heavy part in some songs. And I think it's such a good sounding thing. There's 30 songs, so if you don't enjoy a song, you can just skip it and hear something else, and it sounds amazing. So while I was hearing it, I was typing down stuff about each and every song, and right now I'm going to say all of my favorite songs. Okay, so number 1 is Back in the USSR, and I think this song is just great because it's a good starting song with its like plain sounds, and it has it feel as if they've touched down and they've started to come on to the stage or wherever place they're going to perform these songs. Second is Dear Prudence, which is a great song. It actually has the other song go into it, so it just kind of flows great. And I think it's just a very calming but also kind of faster song than you'd expect for the subject, but it's still great. Then after that is While My Guitar Gently Weeps, which, I mean, this song is just amazing. It is one of the best songs by the band ever. It just sounds perfect. Then, which is my personal favorite off of the album, which is Happiness is a Warm Gun, which I think is amazing. It just sounds so good, and I have never heard the song until this time, and wow, I mean, it is just amazing. It is like sexual topics, which is kind of scandalous, I guess, for the time, but I mean, we're in 2026, so who cares? This song is great. Then Rocky Raccoon, which is a song that I've heard a long time ago, and I think it is amazing storytelling. I think it's just a great song, and it also is very funny too. It's a very odd story, but it sounds great. Then Why Don't We Do It in the Road, which is just a hilarious song, and it's also the halfway song of the entire album, which I think is great. It's just a short kind of song, but it makes no sense and it's hilarious. Then Julia, which I think is a great slower song, and I think it's about John's son. I mean, I'm not saying that for sure, but I feel like it might be, and it just sounds great. Very slow and almost sad, but it just sounds amazing. Then Your Blues, which is it just sounds like a classic blues song, which I think is great, and it's very long and just continuous. It doesn't stop. It just kind of goes on and on and on, and I think that's great when you're playing a song. Then Sexy Sadie, which I think it sounds very good, and the backing and guitar parts just sound very good. It is a little repetitive at times, but I think that's fine because, I mean, the entire song itself, when you see it, just sounds great. So if a couple times are a bit the same, I think that's okay. Then the song directly after it, Helter Skelter, which I've heard the song before, but I don't think I was paying attention because this song is not how I thought it sounded. I kind of thought it was just like a heavy sound and song that just went constant, but it actually kind of has like this backing part to it where the band kind of sings these like happier sounds, but they get kind of drowned out by Paul just doing that like hard sound, and it's a very like heavy rock sound, which I think is so crazy because this is from the 60s. So I think this definitely was a starter for everything that we currently have. Then Savoy Truffle, which I think it's a very funny sounding song and a subject because about 50% of the entire song is just them talking about desserts and candies and all that stuff, but they have it sound so good. And it does sound like Steely Dan, if you've ever heard of them. It just sounds like the very weird subject, wacky sounds and guitar and all that stuff, but it's from the Beatles, so I think that's just kind of cool. Then, which might be my second favorite song, is Good Night, which is just amazing. It's an amazing closer to an album, and it's sung by Ringo, and he can just sing it so calmly, and it does feel like you're just going to sleep. Like, it just sounds beautiful and calming, and I think it's such a good end to everything. It's just a calm end. It's not something crazy. It's just a nice calm end, and I think it's great. So that's been my opinion on the White Album by the Beatles, and I think it's great. I think the songs I didn't even talk about are still good, and you should definitely hear the full thing just by itself. Just set aside about a half hour or an hour and a half and just play it. It's just great. Some songs go into each other. Some songs are heavy, then they become slow and happy, or sometimes it's happy, then it becomes sad. It's just a very good sounding and well put together record. and you should definitely check it out. But other than that, I want to thank you a whole lot for staying around and hearing all of this, and let's hope we get to 100 subscribers. Thank you so much for watching.